We're on the air, Madam President.
Nice way to start the day.
Madam President, we're on the air. Yes, we're on the air.
That clock is wrong.
Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm going to call the Laguna Woods, United Laguna Woods regular open meeting of the Board of Directors for the California Nonprofit Mutual Benefit to order on Tuesday, November 12th at 9:30 a.m. in the boardroom. And we will call to order. We have a quorum. We're only missing, well, we're missing two, but the one should show. And I want to thank the TV people, and that's the only media we have today, but appreciate their bearing with us. Okay, Andre, please.
Okay, everybody
The
rise.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Repeat after me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion.
A second.
Carl and Andre seconded it. Any discussion? Okay, we have three sets of meeting minutes to go over, September 10th, September 27th.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I had asked request to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. You want to speak?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to delete item number 9B. Candidate nomination period has been extended from the meeting. And I have a little speech here why I believe that is being so. There are some issues I would like to bring to your attention, all the members, that border on abuse of power given to the president, as our new President Margolis is demonstrating in her first month. Number one, entertaining a motion to rescind a 90-day censure given to director for harassing a staff member. Meeting dated 10/21/19. This censure was given to the director after he admitted his guilt and was an action taken to prevent further incidences. She didn't know that she would get the necessary votes that are aligned with the elections. Number two, item number 13F from our agenda today, page 3 of 5. Revising Government Documents Review Committee Charter is the title. President Margolis made a motion to amend item number 4 to replace upon board approval wording with and board president and committee chair approval. Number 3, VMS nomination date where election were closed on October 21, but then we changed it for whatever reason, I don't know. Both or all of these motions are out of order per Robert Rule of Order, page number 343, being improper motions. And if a motion of this kind is adopted, then it is null and void. I therefore ask that on these grounds, the following be done. Number 1, Director Armendariz to be excused immediately until after his censure period is done. Number 2, Governing Documents Review Committee charter language be reinstituted to delete the suggested change by the President.
Point of order.
Number 3,
Point of
let
order.
me
This is
finish,
not
I have the
a
floor.
comment period.
I have the floor. Number 3, the nomination has been closed on VMS, and that should be that way.
Okay. Do we have a second for his motion?
Doesn't have to be a motion, there's the second.
I will second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All right, let's vote.
Madam Chair, this cannot be a motion. What I have done is referred to the topic from the book of Robert's
It is
Rules.
not on the agenda, so therefore we will not take
So
it up.
weren't all of these were not on agenda. That is exactly my point. All these three items were not on the agenda.
What are you trying to?
Well, exactly what is
I'm
your
just trying-
purpose?
The purpose is we are a committee of United Laguna Woods, and we have 9,100 members. We have to be fair, not only to our committee, not only to our members, but also to our staff. And through those points, all these actions were taken. Some of them are totally improper, and they are not per the rules established. And they need to be done proper way. There is no motion required for this.
Okay, let's take the voting screen off, please.
Parliamentarian, if I'm right or wrong.
You're right. Right of what?
What?
He's
ac-
quoting Robert's Rules, page 343.
Okay, thank you. Move on.
What action needs to be taken? Parliamentarian.
Is that your motion?
There is no
Andre, please
requirement
don't
for a
interrupt.
motion for this. This is a rule established in the Roberts Rule of Orders.
Well, if we are agreed that Robert's Rules of Order has been not followed, then what his recommendations are have to be followed. If we're out of, in other words, we're out of order.
So how do we decide whether we're out of order or not?
Well, Robert's Rules, is Robert's Rules correct? That is the parliamentary authority, and if it is correct, then the things that he's objecting to have to be taken off, taken out.
But if we had voted in other meetings, does that mean they have to be taken off?
Well, I mean, if the motions were improper, then they're null and void.
Okay, what does 343 read, please?
Improper motions. Motions that conflict with the corporate charter, constitution, or bylaws of a society, or with procedural rules prescribed by national, state, or local laws are out of order. And if any motions of this kind is adopted, it is null and void. Likewise, motions are out of order if they conflict with a motion that has been adopted by the society and has been neither rescinded nor reconsidered and rejected after the motion. Such conflicting motions, if adopted, are null and void. And unless adopted by the vote required to rescind or amend the motion previously adopted.
Manny?
Madam President, has he proven that any of these motions are out of order, or is this just his opinion? Thank you. Has he proven that any of these motions were out of order, or is it strictly his opinion?
Mayor,
Anthony, go ahead.
Well, if there is a rule and it has been broken, then that's the end of it.
Mayor,
Reza?
we're getting into interpretation of rules now. I think we should delay this until we have checked, sometimes maybe with the legal, and then get back to.
Okay, I'm going to take this up at the closed meeting. We're going to go ahead with our agenda as it is today, and we will take this as the first part of our closed meeting in order not delay this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. But I have made a comment on taking item number 9B on this thing. And I have a motion. 9B is to nomination period changing.
Andre?
I think this is out of order. We're in the stage of approval of agenda, and Director Eckercard made a lengthy comment. We'll just talk about agenda. Is there anything that you want to move? Then you have to make a move. You said you don't. It's not a move, and so we can't. If it's not a move, then we have to just let you finish your comment and move on. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, I made the motion and it was seconded.
Okay, there is a vote on the floor. Is there any more discussion on removing 9B? Okay, please go ahead. Would you please push your button so I know you want to speak, Cash?
No, I don't want to speak.
Okay, let's vote.
I do, I want to speak.
Okay. Excuse me, Juanita.
I'm speaking to 9B. This is not an extension of the period for nominations. It is reopening it 2 weeks after the legal time period was over. And it is in direct conflict with the bylaws of Village Management Services, which say the director will be appointed in the same month as each annual meeting of corporation, which was October. So delaying this until December is completely out of order and against this. It's not that we did not follow the rules. We had a candidate, we had a viable, experienced candidate, and just because somebody didn't like that candidate and they wanted to open it up to other candidates is not a reason to do away with the basic rules that we have and we need to follow.
Andre?
I will point it out, that's VMS by law, that's not our by law. Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a vote. Would you put the voting, oh, Maggie, go ahead then. Yes, we have a speaker.
We have a request to speak from Maggie Blackwell.
Thank you. VMS Board Section 4.3 in VMS bylaws state.
Should be working.
VMS bylaws state, directors shall be appointed by the members acting through their respective board of directors in the same month as each annual meeting of the corporation's members. An extension is without legal merit. It is improper, it does not follow the VMS bylaws, and it does not follow the election schedule. There was an application, there was a deadline. Those two met. After that, then someone complained and said, oh, I didn't have a chance to get someone to do it. That is not a legal reason. That is not an upholded reason at all. This is improper, it is arbitrary and illegal. If you read the bylaws of VMS, Section 4.3, you will find that is true. You are without legal merit. Thank you.
You cannot vote on something that is illegal.
Okay, we're going to have a motion whether to take off this off the agenda or not. Would you put up the, is there any other people that want to discuss this? Okay, let's go ahead and put the voting up.
Question with regard to what we're voting on. How are we going to be yes or no to what?
To remove agenda item 9B.
So if we vote yes, we're asking to remove item number 9B. Just making sure I understand it. Thank you.
This is, what you're voting on is to remove agenda item 9B. Yes.
Can we make a comment?
Voted already started.
Close the discussion. Thank you.
Madam, you cannot vote on an illegal item. That is what I just said, and you're asking for a vote. I am not going to vote on something that is
The
illegal.
motion on the floor is to remove it or not. From the agenda. From the
That's what you
agenda.
moved,
That
right?
is the motion on the floor.
That's what you moved, right?
Okay, then I will vote yes.
I vote no. My screen.
Director Liberatore, can I have your vote?
We are now going to vote whether to approve the agenda. Did the motion pass or fail? It failed.
I vote yes.
Approve the agenda.
You want to just give me your verbal vote?
Yes.
Okay. We're moving on to the approval of the meeting minutes. Are there any corrections for the meeting minutes of September 10th, September 27th, October 14th? Do I have an emotion to approve the minutes?
I so move.
Is there a second? Okay. Are there any objections to this? Okay, let's vote.
Yes.
Okay. With that exciting start, we will begin with the chair report of the chair. Today, we'll begin our open mic for residents of the United Mutual for topics not otherwise on today's agenda. Please, 3 minutes per speech. As an aside, may I say this time is especially useful for remarks that are pertinent to systematic issues of the United Mutual as a whole, rather than some personal issue. We have the CEO and the COO to address your concerns. Committee chairs may add if they feel more clarification is needed. For personal issues affecting just yourself or your manor, I would encourage you to go to the resident advisory meetings where there's time for dialogue, and/or committee meetings where there's more specific solutions can be suggested. A bit of a new format in order to expedite considerations of the resolutions on today's agenda. I'm hoping that the secretary or the chairman of the committee will read a synopsis of the salient points of the resolution, removing the legalese. The full resolution will, of course, be on the website and in the minutes. If you don't have access to the website, you can request a copy from VMS staff. I hope this will be a better method than having us read out each resolution in full. We will use this as a trial. If you have any comments on the change, feel free to let me know. Lastly, I encourage all residents to use the technology that has been put in place for you. There are guides available for Easy Pay, Dwelling Live, and Portal. Please call for help if you get stuck. They will make VMS run more efficiently and save money and staff. As a personal aside, I'm coming up to speed and hope you will bear with me while I learn the job. I thank you all, the residents. We strive to make this the best community in which we live. Thank you. We're now ready for open forum. Do we have any speakers, please?
Yes, our first speaker is Chris Collins.
Good morning. Chris Collins, 3306Q, and I'm here to give you another update on the foundation of Laguna Woods Village on our work on behalf of residents experiencing temporary financial crisis. Alzheimer's disease is an increasing health risk for older people. It's an irreversible, progressive brain disorder that harms an individual's memory and thinking skills and eventually their ability to perform the simplest of tasks. The greatest risk, of course, is age. At age 65, it is estimated that 1 in 20 will develop the disease. By age 75, 1 in 10 may have the disease. But the disease not only affects the individual involved, but also their caregiver and can become an enormous burden. But help is available in Laguna Woods to Laguna Woods residents. If your spouse or family member living with you is experiencing increased forgetfulness or dementia, and you can't afford a caregiver, the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village is partnering with South County Adult Day Services, which is operated by Alzheimer's Orange County, and it's here right on El Toro Road. And if it is a part of the Foundation's mission of Neighbors Helping Neighbors. 2 programs are offered by Alzheimer's Orange County. There's a social one, and another one is a healthcare program, and these are both available here on El Toro. The socially oriented program, which is called Day Services Center, offers social opportunities, recreation, meals, friends, combined with some health services like blood pressure and medication monitoring. The second, which is called an Adult Day Healthcare Center, is prepared to handle a range of complex medical conditions and offers nursing care, as well as physical, occupational, or speech therapy, counseling, assistance with dementia or behavioral conditions, eating assistance, and even more. And additional screening and paperwork are required prior to starting. So for some more information to see if someone is eligible for financial assistance and to enroll, please call 949-855-944 and ask to speak to a social worker. The Foundation of Laguna Woods Village is proud to partner with Alzheimer's Orange County to assist village residents facing financial difficulties. For more information, please contact the Foundation at 949-268-2246 or online at the foundation at comline.com. Thank you.
Next
Okay,
speaker,
our
please.
next speaker is Carrie Stiles.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am up to make some positive comments. We are just starting in my entry the maintenance, repair, washing down, as well as painting of our units. And the staff that has been in to assist us, to inform us, and to let us know what to expect over the next several months have been very kind and patient in discussing those things with us. The second thing is, I think a little bit out of the box, having been a Parks Administration major in property management and so on for many years. Thinking out of the box and a problem that we have with labor for the gardening, for the landscape maintenance, a thought came to me of transportation from the Inland Empire to Laguna Woods Village, because that seems to be one of the reasons that we are not getting the number of laborers willing to do that work. Is this too far for them to travel? So either a possibility of the mutuals and VMS allowing car allowances for those people that would come in from the Inland Empire, or possibly using one of the buses to go to the Inland Empire and bring that labor out to our community and back to the Inland Empire. The last thing is, I'm going to make a negative comment, and I have witnessed now this morning what I would consider a Trump type of response to things that need to get done positively, not negatively. And Kash, in my opinion, should sit on Trump's board, because that's the kind of support that he seems to be offering us. Thank you very much.
That's out of order, President.
Yes, our next speaker is Maxine McIntosh.
Good morning, one and all, my dear neighbors, all of you. I want to compliment our landscape department for the beautiful job they've been doing of not only trimming trees that are in dangerous positions, but finally removing some of the giant atrocities that landscape has put up with for years. We had along Serpentine Walk, our manor is in the middle of that. So when I go out my front door, I can see way down several blocks along Serpentine Walk in the grass area that parallels it. And we've had these giant ash trees dropping leaves and branches, and staff would get up there and thin them out so that the wind couldn't catch the branches. But those giant ash trees produce gigantic branches, and some of the branches that would fall were the size of small trees. And the roots of the tree get so big, and they would tear up the cement. Years ago, when I was on the United Landscape Committee, I know staff was telling us there's a lot of trees in this community that should never have been planted where they were. Giant ash trees didn't belong within 15, 20 feet of sidewalks, and they tear up the sidewalks over and over. But these gentlemen, they brought in that big man lift. Years ago, we worried about spending, I think it was $190,000 to buy the man lift. I'm so glad we did. It's probably paid for itself many times. But they got up in those huge trees, cut them down scientifically till they could finally cut them off, the ones doing the most damage and creating the greatest problems. I thought it was wonderful. They've done a terrific job. And people who worry about when trees have to be cut down, I hope they remember that our landscape staff plants a new tree for every tree they have to cut down or have to remove. So we don't lose the number of trees we have. We just have more appropriate trees in the appropriate spots. The trimming man in that man lift, he really knew what he was doing. He deserves a lot of credit. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Maggie Blackwell.
Maggie Blackwell, 71D. Only 25% of United members voted. Only 25%. The majority of this new board wants 20% of our regulations eliminated. 20% of our legally written, legally enforced regulations eliminated. Here are some recent suggestions they have made publicly over the past months in meetings or in speeches or in print. No enforcement of traffic or DMV regulations. That's on TV. No traffic fines. No alterations regulations. No contractor regulations for hours, noise, dumping, or parking. No compliance regulations about dogs, noise, theft, harassment, nuisance. Allow unmonitored, unrestricted co-occupants. allow unrestricted RV parking, allow unrestricted gate entry, no vehicle limit per unit, reduce financial requirements and welcome lower income buyers, allow any combination of people to buy a share, allow unlimited guarantors located anywhere, allow unaccredited lenders, allow immediate rental after purchase, allow daily rentals, eliminate occupancy restrictions, eliminate late payment fines, eliminate electrical charging fees for cars and carts. One of our leaders claims to be so knowledgeable that person does not need to ever read staff reports or governing documents. Beware of those who speak with authority, who have not read anything, and have no answers for questions except, "I know better." We had a director say, "I know better," about the 5,501 financial report. He said in 1 month, May, "I know how to do this better than you do. I will do it. Put me on the committee. I will tell you how to do it." Could he do it? No. He didn't sign his name 2 times, and the 3rd time he did. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our public comments.
I would like to thank each speaker for coming forward, and the board and VMS appreciate your willingness and concerns. Hopefully, together, we can make this a better place. Jeff, do you have any comments on these?
The only one I would respond to is we have taken a look a couple different times with regards to the transportation issue, with regards to employees that live in the Inland Empire. We'll continue to do that. The difficulty is they're scattered, within the Inland Empire, so it's kind of difficult unless we have a united effort to come up with a centralized system. But we'll keep evaluating that because it is an impact in the sense that it is pretty costly to make the commute in and out.
Netta, would you give us a follow-up report, please?
Good morning, everybody. It's about September 10 is the board meeting. 5 residents commented in the open meeting. 2 residents' question require staff follow-up. The following summarize the item and staff response. Resident Mike, I hope that I spell it right, Ayuti, 468D. Landscape around unit has not been serviced for 7 months. And the response is, landscape crew completed maintenance in this area on 9/11/19. Member is meeting with area supervisor on 10/30/19 to go over additional item requested, and residents satisfied with work completed. Resident Mike Landry, 693B, plastic sheeting on roof of building 182 is falling off. Also, wall along sidewalk is bulging and needs to be fixed before someone gets injured. Response is Unit 182C had torn tarp and large bricks on the roof for unknown reason. No roof leaks have been reported by any of 3 units. This unit appears vacant even though 2 owners are listed in our database. Staff removed tarp and the bricks. Bulging wall also belongs to Unit 182C. Alteration sunroom is in disrepair. Staff found no other issues around building. Letter issued requiring repair to alteration within next 30 days. Resident C. Overman, previously requested an update on how staff is addressing the path that maintenance vehicle utilize. He and other residents of 945 and 946 are concerned with the dust that results when the vehicle travel by. Trail by B946, 8 by 160 foot dirt was partially paved in October to eliminate dust created during the landscape operation. To further maintenance dust, an additional 100 length will be paved in November.
Thank you. Director Pasella, would you give us your update, please? I'm sorry, we are having the CEO respond to the things because they are the ones that have to do the work. Cash?
Madam Chair, I have no objection having our CEO respond, but every director sitting here is sitting here as a volunteer, and we have our say for the sake of our constitution here, our members. You cannot make a change and eliminate all the directors. If that is so, why are we sitting here? We will just get up and walk away. Every director has the opportunity, must have the opportunity.
So
to
would you
respond.
please give your comments if you want to give them?
Sure. And it's not just me, everybody has to respond. One, I would appreciate Ms. Collins. She has done such a wonderful job throughout, and I really, really appreciate what she's doing for our community. She keeps us posted on what is going on, and this is an excellent topic. Next, I would like to talk to Kerry Stiles. Thank you for being sending kudos to our staff and asking for bus service. Very valid suggestion, and I think Mr. Parker responded to it, saying he will look into it. And third, please, I am not a Trump guy or Obama guy. I'm here for the sake of the people, you included. I am bringing something that is not legal, and if I don't bring it, I'm not doing my job. That's why I'm doing it. I've come from a land called India with Mahatma Gandhi, and I believe in truth.
You're still very political.
This is not a discussion. And I have one more comment for Maggie Blackwell. I am hoping she has proof for all the changes in the regulations she's talking about, because I wasn't aware of it. Thank you for bringing it.
I'm done.
Any other director would like to comment? Okay, we'll move right ahead now, thank you.
Can't hear.
Any other director want to comment? Okay, we're ready for you, Dorothy, please.
Good morning. My name is Dorothy Pacella, and I am one of the United representatives on the VMS board. First off, I want to say good morning to our new president, as well as our directors. And on behalf of the board, I send a warm welcome to Brian and Nita, and we express our congratulations as a result of your election. If you need any help with the VMS board and understanding our role, I'm here for you to work with you one-on-one, so we're able to go through that and help you understand. This morning, however, I'm here to talk about what we've been doing with the VMS board. And there's been a lot of work done in the area of our strategic plan. Many of you across all boards, as well as our board, have been working to develop the strategic plans for next year. And then we began that process in February of 2019 of this year. We first met in May, and now we're planning another meeting this month to really talk about the strategic initiatives that we have with select members of the boards. So we're very excited about keeping that going forward. And I want to stress to you that this has been a team effort. It's collaborative, it's across boards, it's across VMS. And so when we are done with this, it will be a united message and united working together as we move forward. The second thing that we've done is create key performance indicators. You may have heard the term KPIs. And we are going to be doing that with our strategic goals because it's indeed a best practice. It's a way to measure, and it's an important way to evaluate our progress in what we're doing and how we're doing, and keeping the performance at the foremost of all of our employees within VMS. We have to speak the speak and have set the North Star for our organization. And that's what we're trying to do with the KPIs. What happens in all areas when you implement KPIs is if you take your strategic plan and you combine it with KPIs, you're destined for success. And what happens across all organizations is that this is the best practice that is followed. You establish a KPI because this is what we have established and determined and outlined to be important. What it does is it holds every department accountable. And so they're focused, they're laser focused on what their job is. It creates lots of elimination of the confusion of what we're doing in our jobs. But the important thing is, from a management perspective, it allows you to inspect what you expect. And we will do that on a monthly basis. This isn't just, the beginning of the year versus the end of the year. The North Star here will be no surprises. We will look monthly, we will monitor monthly, and we will drill down to find out where the variances are in terms of us delivering what we've committed to with our plan. This morning, I just want to talk very high level in terms of what those KPIs are. And I personally want to thank Wei Ming from the VMS board. She is on Third Mutual. She has been important in leading this initiative for us with KPIs. So the first thing you see on the screen is our goal. Number one goal is to ensure financial stability and longevity. Very important to all of us. So some of the key performance questions that we will have is how can we do more with spending less money? We're all in agreement with that, so I don't think there's any objection. And then what do we have, operational excellence and sustainability, to do this? And so we really want to ensure financial stability, first and foremost. Our second KPI relates to our second strategic goal. We want to improve customer service to meet residents' needs and concerns. So the kinds of questions that we'll be looking at are services performed on time and completed correctly. We hear that, we've heard you, we're going to do something about it. And also important is the communication effective, and we don't want to surprise anyone. So we are focused on our customer. They are our members, and we just want to do better. We don't come to work every day trying to figure out how not to do our jobs. Our third KPI is related to our third goal, to attract, develop, and retain high-quality staff. So importantly, when it comes to this, do we have a workforce that's engaged? Are they excited? Do they really want to come to work here? Do they like working here? So we're very important about that. But yet in the recruiting effort, what are our rewards? What is our recognition? Are we competitive? We realize that we are in a very robust Orange County, and we want to be able to recruit the best talent for us today and going forward. Our fourth goal is to implement improved technology and take advantage of the advances within technology today. So some of the key performance indicators will be, are we managing our resources to encourage innovation and embrace change? And are we adapting to best practices for our industry? We want to be at the leading edge of this. We need to take advantage of what's out there, and yet again, do it with financial responsibility along the way. Our fifth goal is to upgrade our infrastructure. The KPIs there will be included that do we have an in-depth 5-year plan and a 30-year studies of major repair and replacements requirements? And do we have adequate funds to deliver that? So lastly, our critical KPIs. The VMS Board of Directors will be focusing on these and report these 5 critical KPIs as we move into the future. We are excited about this project. We know how important it is, and we appreciate your feedback, and we welcome you as we go through this process. So thanks for your attention.
Okay, going forward, we have already commented on 9B. We have opened, and we will be discussing this in our closed meeting. We've reopened and we extended the mutual, or reopened, or whatever we want to call it. If you are interested in joining the VMS board and working on these new things, please contact the corporate secretary for an application. Jeff, we're ready for your CEO report. Yes,
Thank you, Matt.
excuse me, Cheryl.
I had members that wanted to speak on 9B.
Okay, let's go ahead and allow them to speak.
Okay, call to the floor, Maggie Blackwell.
Thank you. I believe you heard what I had to say earlier. What you are doing is not legally backed. You are going into new territory. You don't like the law, so you're just creating a new one, and you're going to follow that without following the one from VMS. It is not United's purview to do this in this way. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I call to the floor Dick Rader.
Dick Rader, 270D. My question got answered, but I just want to point out something. The reason why I asked for director comments, because a statement was made that a lot of things were going to change. And I wanted the board to respond because I don't think Jeff could respond to that. You know what I'm saying? Maggie gave a laundry list of things that potentially are going to change, and I thought it was important for the board to respond whether that's true or not.
And I call to the floor
Wait a second, let's,
Nancy Lannon.
Good morning, Nancy Lannon, 669N, via Mendoza. I'm thoroughly mystified by this euphemism that's been given to this extension of this nomination. It hasn't been extended. It was closed, and now it's been reopened. And that's not according to the law from what I understand. And also, I don't understand the self-interpretation of the Robert's Rules of Orders that seems to have been going on this morning. But when you have a perfectly qualified candidate who is eminently qualified, knows where all the bodies are buried, has been elected, has been the only one to follow the rules, and now has been put aside because somebody doesn't like her? I don't understand this. I'm fearful. If this is setting a precedent, what's to stop the board from changing all the rules? For example, we had 506 people who were disqualified on the voting because they didn't sign the back of the ballots. Is the board going to decide, well, maybe we should go back and redo that? Well, why have an election at all? We don't even have to bother with doing that. We could possibly just send the ballots into the directors and let them sign them instead of having to run around offering to sign people's ballots for them. And I'm also concerned that people are not looking at this for the good of the members, and I'm terrified to see what's happening here. From what I'm seeing, you've got the board stacked one way or the other, and it's us's and them's instead of us being for everybody. And I hope you rethink this and start to work together and look at the issues instead of what people have as personal agendas. Thank you.
And our last speaker on this item is Maxine McIntosh.
Thank you. I have an humble suggestion. I know that you want to be off to a good start and you feel you're working for the community, why don't you postpone this till you can meet with your attorney? Take it off the agenda for today till you can meet with your attorney. And if your attorney, approves whatever or gets you to tone it in his direction, then you're safe. So I hope you'll do that.
That was our plan to do it, is to move it to the closed session. Thank you.
Yeah, somebody asked us to respond to Maggie's questions. So all I can say is that whether you believe you can or cannot, you are right. And sometimes we have board members that believe they cannot, so
Out
they
of order.
block all these things. So what I'm trying to say at this point is that whatever the proposals, Maggie, you made, we totally agree with you. We will do none of those things. We will do things that you don't know. And for example, we will support a KPI. We talk about measurement. And during the landscape committee, we've been trying to do measurement, but we will never be able to do that. So KPI is the direction we're heading at this point, which you probably don't know, okay? So these are the issues that we talk about. And coming to the committee meetings, you will find out we are doing things that are totally conceptually, principally different from what in the past we're going to do. And we want to make sure that we will achieve those things. So hopefully we will do something totally differently that you probably never imagined. And so hopefully we will make it. And we do have confidence that we can do it, because in my past experience, we've done this kind of thing, like KPIs, okay, many, many times. So those are the things that we want to do at this point. And we guarantee you we will make it. Please do not spread rumor around and said we will do something else. Okay, make sure you talk to us before you tell everybody we want to do something else. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, part of his remarks are very valid, and I think Ms. Pasella made really good speech, and I would like a copy of that speech. Excellent. But part of his remarks should be deleted because we had already talked about members' comments before, and he had no business bringing that in the next one. Let's keep the meeting short.
Okay, we're moving forward now to the CEO report.
Madam President, to the board members, I have 3 items I wanted to bring up and then turn it over to Siobhan. She has some additional information. The first one is what I think is good news is as you know, the village has been working with the city regarding giving input to both OCTA and Department of Transportation, i.e. Caltrans, with regards to the proposal of widening the I-5 freeway. And they had 2 major proposals, of which we didn't like either one really in all reality, and we gave them that input. We had a meeting with the city manager just recently, and we were informed as part of that OCTA and Caltrans have made a decision because there's no consensus to put the project on hold, which means that there won't be any project going forward at this point in time. Caltrans has pulled their environmental team off of it. They've asked all 3 cities, Lake Forest, Laguna Hills, and Laguna Woods, to have their separate not attorneys, but their separate engineers to work on some localized improvements that could be done as opposed to major freeway expansion. So in both of those cases, that's good news. We will continue to express our concerns with the environmental process and the impacts that would have on the village. At this point in time, we know that both OCTA and Caltrans are aware of those concerns. I'll keep you posted if there's any change to that. The second one, if you drove in, you'll notice that last week the city of Laguna Woods started to work on their El Toro and Moulton median rehabs. So the 2 medians that are in front here, the initial work to get it prepped started last week. They anticipate that the timeframe for construction is 60 days, so have it hopefully completed in the near future. These medians will be similar to the ones that they already have on Moulton, with drought-tolerant planting and some trees. That's good news that that's finally moving forward instead of just having dirt out there. And then one other one that I wanted to mention, just because it's an interest to the village members for different reasons, and that is the Laguna Hills Mall developer introduced a new proposal at the city of Laguna Hills recently. It is a scaled back model from what they introduced previously. It now has 1,200 to 1,500 units of apartments. It's 390 to 520,000 square feet of office space and commercial activities. The project still has, similar to the first proposal, includes a 125-room boutique hotel, 250,000 square feet of retail space, 110,000 square foot, two-floor anchor buildings, a cinema, a community park, and an amphitheater. The issue, obviously, that has concerned a number of people and will continue to evaluate is what would be the impact with regards to the streets, roads, transportation, environment with regards to that intensive a development. So we will see this once it's a formalized application to the city of Laguna Hills. Then I know that Laguna Woods and the village will be making comments to the effect that it would have on our residents. So we'll keep you posted on that. And with that, I'll turn it over to Siobhan.
Honorable President, members of the board, just want to give you a few more updates. The annual pool maintenance project has started with Pool 4 closing yesterday for its winter maintenance. The approximate closure time will be 4 to 6 weeks, and then annual maintenance closures will follow at Pool 1, 2, and 5. All pools will be open for summer hours beginning on Saturday, May 23rd for Memorial Day weekend. As the holiday season approaches, the Pendleton Marines Toy Drive returns. From November 8th to December 1st, the Armed Forces Adoption Club is collecting toy donations for Marine families of the 1st Marine Division at Camp Pendleton. Please bring new unwrapped toys and place them in specially marked boxes at all clubhouses and the recreation office in the community center. The toys will then be taken to the Marine base for donation and distribution to families. Additionally, the VMS Department of Information Services has configured the village website with an easier, more comprehensive search tool function. So using appropriate keywords, users can search for village events, classes, news, documents, forms, and much more. So give this new tool a try. On November 5th, the GRF board approved the implementation plan for operational changes to the village transportation system. These changes will be effective in January 2020 and are within the approved 2020 business plan. The implementation plan includes redesigned fixed route system that incorporates neighborhood, commercial, and wellness routes with pickups every 30 minutes. That's an improvement from the current hour duration between routes. Expansion of the fixed route service to include Saturdays, and reprioritization of plan-a-ride service to focus on those with medical disabilities, and negotiation with Lyft Rideshare to provide on-call services during evening hours and Sundays. So please look forward to the information that will be forthcoming on these major improvements. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. We're now going to start on the consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar? Carl made the motion, Cash seconded. Is there any discussion? I believe we need to, Juanita, please.
I would like to pull item E. There are changes to the committee appointments that need to be made before we pass it.
Okay, let's, so moved. Is there, yes, Carl?
I have a question. These committee, we're working without an approved committee list. Why can't we make the changes here?
We are.
Oh, okay, going to make the changes here.
We're
Like
just going to
script
pull it.
errors or whatever?
We're going to just correct
Oh,
the
we're gonna-
errors.
okay, I get what you're
And
saying.
go on. Okay,
Had a brain fart.
yep. All right, let's go ahead and pull E and vote on the consent calendar. Is there any objection to that? Okay. Vote.
Vote should be on your screen to approve the consent calendar with the removal of agenda item 11E.
Not on anybody's. We can do a hand motion. Anybody, everybody in favor? Oh, got it now. Thank you. Okay, E will be 12B.
Okay, I need a vote from Director Bastani. Director Armendariz, yes or no? Okay. And then Director Livatore?
Yes.
Okay.
It's 5,500. Okay. Let's move on to unfinished business. Do you have that right up on the motion for the lenders, please?
All right, this particular resolution and motion concerns the recognition agreement. The recognition agreement is an agreement that we make with a financial institution, a lending payer, in order to be able to lend within the village. And the recognition agreement says that United, the mutual, is in first place. So whenever anything is sold, foreclosed, whatever, we get our money first before it goes to the lender. And they need to sign this in order to keep us financially strong. The motion itself, the resolution is long, but the further act, basically what it says is that we require a lender to sign the recognition agreement, giving United Mutual the first right of refusal and agreeing to pay assessments when due in the event the member defaults its obligation. And that's an important part too, because sometimes there can be months, 6 months or more in between when it has not been decided who really owes the assessments. So if they do have a loan and our current lender, they do pay those assessments while this is being worked out. So that's another important part of it. I move that this motion on the recognition agreement be sent back to committee because there are things in it that I thought had been agreed upon in the committee. Primarily, right now, it says that the lending institution has to be either a state or federally chartered bank or credit union. And that lets out everybody else that's not a bank or a credit union, even if they sign the recognition agreement. So I think that wording, I think it needs to come out. So I'd like to see it go back to committee to clean that up and in the whole recognition agreement. That needs to be worked out.
Okay, we'll take is there any discussion about moving it back to committee? Yes.
I just would like to add something to that also. I wrote this little blurb up. There are mortgage companies of some worth. That's the other opportunity for us to use, okay? Mortgage companies of some worth, like LendingTree, usually have to meet the requirements of the National Association of Mortgage Underwriters and the Certification of Mortgage Underwriters, and in many instances, they also meet the obligations of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Now, I have no idea if a mortgage company will sign our recognition agreement, but by restricting them with the language we have in the resolution, we are opening ourselves up to criticism that we are not looking down all the avenues to get more lenders into our community. We need to add mortgage companies and then have them tell us that they are unwilling to meet our requirements to put us first for payback upon default of the resident. That's why I agree with Tip.
Cash.
Since we are taking it back, or at least there's a motion on the floor to take it back, I would like to point out a few words here. We are giving our lenders, so-called, option to lease scattered interspersed throughout the document. That should be looked at again. Also, item number 18, further blanket encumbrances. I don't understand the correct language there, so that we will
Okay,
have to.
it will be going back to governing docs. Okay, is there any more discussion? Is there any discussion from the floor? Would you put up the voting? We're voting to move it back to governing docs. Yes. Yes is moving it back to committee.
Well, that's not what the motion says.
Motion postpone. Send it back to committee.
Send it back to committee was the. Okay, we're missing. This has been a long, hard one, and it's going to take us a little while longer to get this right, and we may need to get another legal opinion on it to
Director
get it correct.
Liberatore, your verbal vote?
Yes.
All right, I'm unclear the way the motion is worded. A motion to adopt a resolution to require recognition agreement for lenders. And that was done in September, so this would be a final vote and review to comply. And that's not what we're voting on. We're voting on sending it back to committee, not adopting this resolution.
Okay.
That's not what it says. So
It's not what it
If you
says.
voted yes, you are voting to,
Okay, send it.
no,
Okay.
Madam Chair, it's a motion to refer to committee.
refer
but that's
to-
not what it says
On the screen.
on the
It's a-
screen in the motion.
Okay,
We'll correct it in the minutes, okay?
All right,
thank you.
all right. In that case, I will vote yes. I definitely want it postponed.
Okay, we will now take up the committees. The changes that we need to make are on the handyman task force, Carl's to be removed. On the resolution that all directors considered alternate members of each committee, we need to have substitutes cannot do for more than 2 consecutive, not 3 consecutive meetings. 2. On the governing docs, we need to remove Netta because she has a conflicting meeting with security at that time. Those are the corrections that we need. So with those corrections, do I have a motion to adopt the committee appointments?
I move that we adopt the committee appointments with those revisions.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Yes.
The procurement or purchasing task force, is that going to be added on there, GRF?
As soon as it's formed, it
Oh,
will
okay.
be added. It's not formed yet.
Okay.
As well as the research groups will be adding. Okay, Reza.
I'm a little confused here. We decided to move this item E first. Now we are going to approve it. I don't know what's the motion about.
The motion is to approve it with the changes that I just read out, the committee assignments. We moved it from consent to Cash?
I'm a little bit confused because on your 11E, page 3 or 4, I didn't see task force, handyman task force.
It's on page 2 of 4.
Page 2 of 4. Page 2 of 4. Okay. All right. Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you.
All right, any other comments? Let's vote. And it passes. Okay, moving on to new business. Carl, would you give us the motion for revision 27?
13A, revision to alteration standard 27 soft water unit. This resolution was last revised in January 2016 via resolution 01-1608. The Architectural Committee has reviewed this existing standard pertaining to the alteration standard 27 soft water unit, and due to various reasons, the following sections are proposed to be revised as follows. Exposed exterior installations must be enclosed in a 5-inch length CDX plywood cabinet to be built textured to match the exterior wall and panel and painted inside and out to match the color of the building. All exposed plumbing shall be painted the same as the color of the surface to which it is attached. 2.3, isolation valves for emergency shutoff will be required. And 2.8, approval of landscape installation to conceal the soft water unit cabinets will be required. On September 19, 2019, the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee reviewed this standard. The committee voted to recommend the item for approval by the board, and it is being presented at this meeting for approval.
So moved.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, Emmanuel, I guess. Can we go ahead and vote on this? Oh, is there any discussion? I'm sorry.
I was just wondering, this is strictly 13A he's talking about?
That's exactly what he's talking about. Any other discussion? Anybody from the floor? Okay. 13B, please.
13B, this revised alteration standard 30 water heater relocation. This resolution was last revised in January 2016 via resolution 01-1608. Architectural Committee has reviewed the existing standard pertaining to alteration standard 30 water heater relocation, and due to various reasons, the following sections are proposed to be revised as follows. Water heaters located outside the unit must be enclosed in an exterior storage cabinet. Cabinets shall be textured to match exterior building wall and paneled and painted to match the color of the building. Cabinets shall be painted on all sides, inside and out. Future costs for the maintenance of the cabinet will be at the member's expense. All exterior water heaters are required to be wrapped in an R11 insulated blanket or equal. All installations shall meet code regulations for adequate earthquake strapping. Any new or replaced water heater tank that is installed at the time of the relocation will be 100% at the member's expense. All installations shall meet current electrical codes. Dimensions shown on the enclosure detail are approximate depending on the size of the water heater and the R11 blanket. The dimensions may be different. On September 19, 2019, the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee reviewed this standard. The committee voted to recommend the item for approval by the board, and it is presented at this meeting for approval.
Is there a second?
I second. I
You
move.
can't,
Yeah, I move.
Man. Okay, discussion, please. Cash?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Page 6 of 13B, item 3.5. Any new or replaced water heater tank that is installed at the time of relocation will be 100% at the mutual member's expense. What I would like to modify that is the moving from one place to another place, alteration, yes. But if the water heater is identical to the United's water heater, that should be still United responsibility. If they want to put something else, then so be it, then they will have to replace. I would like to reword 3.5 indicating that. Thank you.
In the committee, we didn't feel that that was required, and as a result of that, this is the way it was stipulated. If we want to change it, then we have to send it back to committee. And at this particular point in time, I feel it isn't necessary to send it back to committee. I mean, everybody can make a motion to send it back to committee, but at this particular point in time, there's an motion on the floor.
Okay, Reza?
I have another comment as well on this. I feel that texturing the cabinet, etc., is fine looking, but it adds to the expense of making these alterations. I'd like to suggest that we remove that as well.
Okay. Mary, do you want to comment?
Mary Stone, 356C. Yes, I agree with Cash. If you have a standard water heater, it should be replaced by the mutual, because the mutual has an obligation to maintain the water heaters as the landlord. I personally relocated my water heater outside the building for the safety factor, to avoid any problems with flooding my neighbors, especially when it's upstairs and an adjoining wall. I mean, there were real issues with putting a water heater there. So by moving it outside, it will eliminate any possible water damage to my neighbor. And it's a standard water heater, and it was installed by the mutual, but it was located outside.
Carl?
Section 3.5, as I read it, said, any new or replaced water heater tank that is installed at the time of the relocation will be 100% at the member's expense. That means if you install a new water heater that's yours, it will be to your expense. If you're relocating the water heater from the inside to the outside, that's not what it said. It says new or replaced water heater, not relocated water heater.
Cash?
Well, technically, Carl is right with that kind of language, but if the water heater is already old and the new person coming in wants to put a new, relocate it, the United should pay for the cost of the water heater, which is like $200 or $300. I don't know how much it is, but that's what I'm getting at.
Okay, we'll go
Thank you.
ahead. Any other speakers? Let's call for a vote. Oh, wait, Juanita?
Sorry, I didn't request to speak. I think it's important to notice on all of these that you will have two attachments, Attachment 2 and Attachment 3. They are virtually the same. Attachment 3 is the draft with the red line changes. Attachment 2 is the final draft. So they're not different. It's just one is the original with the changes that are made, and Attachment 2 is the one that we're voting on.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Cheryl?
I need clarification on the second motion. Did Director Akakar make a motion to send it back to committee? And it was seconded by Director Bastani? Is that
No, I don't
correct?
believe it.
I don't understand the difference between 2 and 3, but on 3, you are eliminating the 3.5 clause. So are we going to institute attachment 3 or attachment 2? If you're attaching item 3, I
It's
do
the
not want
same.
to send it back.
Attachment 3, C has the strikeouts. It shows what was changed, and Attachment 2 is a clean copy of the final draft.
Well, in that case, I would like to refer it back to the committee to reword item 3.5 as an attachment 2. Thank you.
Is there a second? Is there a
Make a
second
motion.
for that motion? Reza, you second the motion?
Yeah.
Okay, let's vote. Is there any discussion on that? Carl?
But don't we already have a motion on the floor?
We have to vote on the amendment first before you can
Amendment
vote
first.
on the original
Amendment.
motion.
We have to vote on that, whether we send it back to committee or not first. Okay, so we will be voting whether to send this back to committee or to accept it as it is.
We're sending it back to the committee, right? The motion is...
Yes or no?
Yes is to send it back to committee. All right, it does not go back to committee. Now we vote on the motion as it is, that we accept this as the new resolution.
Just, Director Liberatore, just give me your verbal vote.
He likes playing with his screen. Okay, it's accepted as is. Motion 12C, please, Carl. 12C, please, Carl.
Okay, revised alteration 36 ramps. This resolution was last revised in January 2016 via Resolution 01-1608. Architectural Committee has reviewed the existing standard pertaining to the alteration standard 36 ramps, and due to various reasons, the following sections are proposed to be revised as follows. Pedestrian ramp is a sloping accessible route intended for pedestrian traffic to and from unit. Materials. Concrete is to be used with a minimum 3.5-inch pour and heavy broom swept finish on the surface. 322 slope. The maximum slope of ramps shall be no greater than 1 unit vertical in 12 units horizontal, 8.33% slope. Transitions from ramps to walks, gutters, or streets shall be flush and free of any abrupt changes. On September 19, 2019, the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee reviewed this standard. The committee voted to recommend the item for approval by the board, and it is being presented at this meeting for approval.
Is there a second for that?
I move this.
Raise has seconded. Is there any discussion on this? Cash.
Item 2.1 of attachment 2 needs to reflect that it's not just pedestrian traffic, but also wheelchair access. There's no mention of wheelchair here. That pedestrian access could be narrower than required for a wheelchair. So can we add that wording of wheelchair in item 2.1 in definitions?
We had this whole discussion during the meeting regarding what needed to be done and what needed not to be done. The wording that was put in there was felt to be adequate for what was needed. Had you been there, you would have heard this and you could have commented on it. But at this particular point in time, we didn't feel that that wording was necessary. And as a result of that, the wording that we have right now meets or exceeds the requirements that are needed.
So in a sense, what you're saying is that ramp could be a 1/2 foot wide or 1 foot wide, and
No.
pedestrian can walk over,
No, the
but not a
ramp,
wheelchair? Is that what you're saying?
Shaban.
If you refer to section 3.2.1, it talks about width, and the minimum width being 36 inches.
Okay, do you want to move it back to committee? Do you want to make that motion, Cash, or do you want to go ahead and vote for this, on this?
No, I don't want to.
Okay, let's vote. All right, it passes. Juanita.
The VMS, the creation of a VMS liaison committee. In September, the Governing Docs Review Committee approved a proposed charter for the creation of the Village Management Services Liaison Committee, which is comprised of our 3 members on the VMS board, and it just basically sets up their service and their work with us and allows them to, as our liaison, to attend our meetings and to be privy to some of the closed documents and closed meetings that other people cannot do because they are under the same restrictions then as the rest of the board as to what security and confidentiality, et cetera. And so the only change is on page 5 of 8. Somehow, under committee members, it says 2 representatives, and that should be 3, as reflected in the staff report. So with that change, I would like to propose, make a motion to approve this.
Is there a second? Okay, any discussion? Let's vote. Oh, Cash?
I just want clarification. This is not another liaison committee, but this is the VMS.
Yes.
But the wording reflects it's another liaison committee.
It is a legal requirement that we make them part of our committee in order to cover them. Please.
I have a request to speak from Maggie Blackwell.
Oh, that was to change the 2 to 3.
Okay. Thank you. All right, it passes. Carl.
Okay. Entertain a motion to revise the M&C charter. We recently noted that the M&C charter is really out of date since it is described, and it describes an M&C committee that also had at one time oversight of the architectural issues within United Mutual. Today, architectural reviews are performed by a separate architectural committee, and therefore the M&C charter needed to be changed to remove the architectural oversight responsibility. In addition, there were also some other editorial changes that needed to be made. At the M&C meeting, we accepted the new version of the charter, and that version was approved, and it is being, was remanded to the board for approval today.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? All right, we get to vote again. Oh, Cash, you,
Is the second by me or by Manuel?
I don't know who she took.
I recorded Director Armandaris.
Isn't a negative news, Greg? Okay, it passed. Andre.
Governing doc met during this month, talk about, and this is the first time I'm chairing this one, a few new members in there. So we talk about the charters, make sure that we all understand why we are there and what kind of function we need to conduct. We reviewed the old charter, and we very much agreed with the old charter, except a few clarifications, like governing doc, what exactly governing doc includes, which includes the policies, resolutions, and operating rules. These are the governing docs we are talking about. These are the documents that we're going to review and make sure they fit your needs. And Also, in there, a consult is appropriate and upon board approval of the board, we changed it to approval, instead of the board approval coming back to the board and going back to the committee, we agreed that it should be the board approval, board and the chairman of the committee's approval. So it will be just two people representing the committee and the board approval. That will make, streamline the process, make it much easier. Basically, that is all the changes. And so I move to accept this charter.
I'll second that.
Okay. Is there discussion? Juanita?
If in fact, in the charter, we are going to define the governing documents, we need to define them all. You have left out the Articles of Incorporation, the occupancy agreement, and the bylaws, which are three of the most important governing documents, as opposed to just the policy resolutions and operating rules.
So you want to amend it?
I'd like to amend it to add those if we feel that we need to define governing documents.
Okay. Is there a second to amend those?
Can I answer that?
Let's have the second, and then we can.
I second it.
Okay, Manuel. Manuel.
I'd like to respond to that because all we did, we referred to the governing documents, and then we thought that we should add some language in there so that there's no doubt that we also want to include in there policies, resolutions, and operating rules. So I don't think there's a need to spell out each of the governing documents. We just want to clarify that it also includes these additional documents. That's all I have to say.
Cash.
I had voiced my opinion that the change is not legal to make the decision by the board president and committee chair instead of the whole board of directors. The board of directors' duty and responsibility is to do these things, not just the chair and the president to come up and make changes. We are not, I'm voting no on this one, period. This is illegal, but I will vote no because it is illegal.
Andre?
First, I have no problem adding on the bylaws, article incorporations. Anything we just have a word of a governing doc, which will assume everybody understands it. So a question was brought up about policies, resolutions, operating rules. We say, okay, we'll add it. Now that since we have questioned about this governing doc, that define the other, maybe also include the policy and procedure, or include the article incorporations and the bylaws in there. That is fine, okay? If I just, can I just state them, also include, will that be sufficient for that? Governing doc is already clearly defined, but it's just not clearly. Usually it means three things under our current website. Okay, it's the article incorporation and bylaw and occupancy agreement. Okay, so if we can say also include, governing doc is already defined, so also include, will that be sufficient?
That would be sufficient.
Yeah, also, so I'll amend it to make it also. And the second issue is, if we look at the 4, consult as appropriate upon approval of board. We're not saying the board and the chair will approve this, any of the changes or any of the resolutions. We're talking about these two people consulting the legal counsel if there's any issue that the committee comes up. If we have to go back to the board for the approval and then go to the legal counsel, it will take a lot of time. So in that situation, we were talking about to streamline the process. Okay, we want to just, if we can just allow the president and the chair, with the consensus of the committee, make the decision. Thank you.
May I have the floor? Good.
Go ahead, Tony.
If I understand what's going on here is that the chair of this committee wants to make decisions independent of the regular board. Is that correct? And if that's so, what you have is a board within a board. It's illegal.
No, what we are trying to do is who should sign off on going to the lawyer. It is not making any decisions. It was a method of who should make the decision whether to go to the lawyer or not. Okay. Reza?
I also feel that this governing document is important. The board should vote.
On going to the legal?
No, not legal.
That's the only part that these two people have, is when to consult the lawyer. That's what it states. Cash.
I may be wrong, but item number 4 clearly states, consult as appropriate and upon approval of board president and the committee chair with United Corporate Counsel. It is totally eliminating any director's view, and that is illegal. And I do not want to vote on this, but it needs to go back.
It is not a vote, it's a consult
With legal counsel.
with legal counsel. Andre?
Sorry, this is maybe I was chair there, and maybe I didn't phrase it correctly. Okay, so consult as appropriate and upon approval of board, the president and the committee chair with United Corporate Counsel. So if you take out away the as appropriate and upon blah, 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 all these sentences in between the two commas, consult with United Corporate Counsel. This is only about consult with United Corporate Counsel about the legality of the changes, and if there's any issues, concerns coming up. We want instead of getting everybody involved, taking the time to do it, we want the board president and the committee chair to talk to the, if both of them agree that it needs to be talked to the legal counsel, then we do it, rather than just one person making the decision.
Reza?
Yeah, I agree with what he's saying, but the wording does not reflect that. The wording is confusing.
Exactly, that is my point. The wording
Okay.
needs to be corrected, and maybe then you can eliminate approval of board president out. Just committee chair is good enough, then it comes to the board, and the board votes including the president.
I believe we need to have the president in there because the bill needs to, okay, Brian?
Yeah. I could agree with the intent of the resolution, but I'm concerned that there's too many wording errors or mistakes or too much wordsmithing. It's not ready for prime time, and therefore I would not accept it.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take a vote whether we go. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry.
We have some member comments. I call up Maggie Blackwell.
Thank you. I have read this in both ways. I have read it the way Cash read it, and then I have read it the way I think it was intended. It is confusing. I think the difficulty with number 4 altogether is what we have done in the past is we have had the attorney on the phone when we felt that it needed to be discussed with the attorney so that the committee could hear what the attorney's opinion was before they voted. And that is why we followed that procedure. That is the procedure I recommend we still do. If you confer after the committee has decided, if you then run it by the attorney and he says some things that would have changed the committee's mind, then where are you? So you need the attorney on the phone. You can simply say, I feel, the two of you, the chair and the president could say, we feel that we, or any committee member can say, we feel that we will need the attorney on the phone for our discussion. Have him be prepared to give you the pluses and minuses and any rewordings he suggests on that before the committee takes the vote and then sends it. I see the wording of this number 4 is very confusing because I took it Cash's way immediately at first and wrote many pages worth of stuff. The president and the chair do not make the rules for the village, or for United. But I see the new intent was just on the attorney issue, on consulting the attorney. And I do recommend that you do consult with the attorney before the committee takes the vote, and that the committee hears what the attorney has to say before they vote on it. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Nancy Lannon.
Once again, I'm seeing what I consider sort of an omnipotent attitude that just the certain people can vote and what have you. We have a board here. We have all different opinions and all different issues. And I think everybody's issues and everybody's opinion is just as valid as everybody else's. I don't think it should be left to the decision of a few people that want to seem to railroad their ideas through. And as far as expediency goes, I've sat through many of these meetings listening to what I thought was superfluous questioning and drawn out, but I thought it was necessary. And if anybody on the board wants to question what's going on and with the governing documents, already we have a decision right here. It's gone back to committee on something else. People cannot decide what it is, and they need a legal opinion. And different people feel the legal opinion is necessary. So I think that, the attorney is very important. And I agree with Maggie. Before you make any decisions on something that is questionable, you ought to get the legal decision. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Mary Stone.
Mary Stone, 356C. I agree with Andre that also including the policies is an important thing to let people know that the governing documents are more than these policies and resolutions. It also includes state and federal laws. And on number 4, I think a simple way of putting that is consult with United Corporate Counsel as appropriate and upon approval of board president and chair. I think if you put what you're consulting with them, when it's appropriate. I think if just by putting consult with, everything else is fine, because it's normal for the president to be the liaison for the board to consult with the attorney. But if the chair has an item that's on the agenda that he feels is important for the attorney to consult with, then he goes through the president, who's the normal liaison, the normal channel. And so that's why it's the two of them in this particular line in the charter. Thank you.
Cash?
Well, I was wondering if you have consulted Jeff Beaumont on this before writing this as a resolution.
No, we did not.
Then I would recommend, or I would make a motion to send this back to the committee to revise the language. And maybe put the language after consulting with our attorney.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
Okay, we're voting whether to send this back to committee.
You already have an amendment on the floor to change the wording. So is this a second amendment to
This
send
is a
it back to?
second amendment.
So we'll need to vote on that first, and then vote on the amendment to change the wording?
We can combine.
No, I think we'll just vote on whether to send it back to committee and not play with wording today. Yes, Andre?
Okay, may I have to make some clarification here? That's not when you, Maggie, you mentioned about a consulting before decision-making. That's not our, yes, we totally agree with that. We're talking about resolution further consult United Corporate Council, okay, with the permission of the president and the chairman. We totally agree with that. No question about it. And it's, and Nancy talked about only certain people can vote. No, not these two people vote. We're talking about a consulting to the corporate council. Okay, whether we should agree, we need the agreement of legal counsel or not, that's not his decision. It is our decision to say, we don't understand the legal ramification of the whole thing. We need his consulting. So it is our decision to go out to tell him, rather than his decision to come and tell us, you need to do that. Okay, we will, okay, so my recommendation to clarify this one is that consult as appropriate and upon approval of board president and committee chair with United Corporate Council before recommendation.
There you go.
Okay, so we have that, that's really our intention was before our recommendation. We were just trying to say, when talk to legal counsel, it's not one person's job to talk to legal counsel and say, we need your legal counsel. It's not the whole board involved. We don't want the whole board involved coming to this meeting and make that recommendation. So we say, that's before the recommendation, we need to consult the legal counsel, and the decision to go to legal counsel is, at this point, made by these two people, but they will have the, well, if you can put with consent of the committee.
Okay.
Okay, making it more
Enough, Andre.
complicated. Thank you.
Carl?
I think with all of the specific details that we've discussed here, with the rewording and engineering, and then the additions that was recommended by Juanita to add, I think that the prudent thing to do is just send it back to committee, make the modifications, and then bring it back. That's what I think is the best. And I think that's what the
I also
motion was
agree.
on the table right now.
Okay, Juanita?
I'd just like to point out that this is the way we've been doing it for the last few years. The president is the one who's in touch with the attorney. If the committee, when they look at the agenda and the president looks at the agenda and says, there's something on here that we need a legal opinion on, then the attorney is invited by the president to join the governing docs committee by phone rather than in person and bring them out. And that's something that we've been doing for years. So I don't see that there's any difference. This just memorializes it.
Tony?
Yes, I'd like to know, Madam Chair, if we're discussing, debating the amendment to the amendment, or where are we here?
I believe we're sending this item back to committee for revision is where we're at.
So that's an amendment to the amendment? Wasn't there an amendment to the amendment?
Yes.
We should deal with that first.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to deal with. Okay, Kash.
It's true, it's not different from what we were doing it, but this time we're putting the cart before the horse by putting it in a resolution. That is what my objection is. If you put it here, then we can very well be eliminated, like in this case.
Let's just discuss whether we're going to send it back to committee or not. That's the only discussion I want to hear right now.
Well, then I'm saying sending it back.
Okay. Is there any more discussion on whether or not we want to send it to committee? All right, let's vote.
Maggie?
I was going to suggest adding at the end of number 4 to solve this problem before committee decision. Cross off the and put consult with United Corporate Council before committee decision. And that erases our difficulties with number 4. I do think you could send it back to committee.
Okay, let's vote whether to send it back to committee. Okay. We will be sending this back to committee. It'll be a very quick part in the meeting. All right. We are ready for the investment Juanita.
Thank you. This resolution revises United's previous investment policy that we last passed in March 2017. It authorizes the managing agent to retain Sageview Advisory Group as our investment manager. Sageview will replace Merrill Lynch and its affiliate BlackRock, which we currently use. The funds to be managed by Sageview are known as the discretionary account and will be invested in either obligations of the United States government or fully guaranteed as to principal by the United States government. The 2017 investment policy allowed up to 20% of the portfolio to be invested in corporate bonds rated A through AAA. The new investment policy allows up to 30% of the portfolio to be invested in investment-grade corporate bonds defined as ratings BBB minus or better. Interim cash balances are to be held in money market funds and are invested in short-term U.S. Treasuries or direct obligations of the U.S. government. This policy will put United in line with those of Third Mutual and GRF and allow our new investment advisor, Sageview, to move us into index funds, saving considerable management fees. Our aim is to save money and to increase returns. And I move this resolution.
Cash seconded.
Cash or Carl? Cash. Thank you.
I second. Yeah, I got you. Is there any discussion on this? All right, we'll take a vote. We're voting, Tony. Do you want to vote for
The investment policy.
investment policy?
Yes.
Okay. It passes unanimously. We are done with the new business, and we will move on to committee reports. Director Amadeus, would you give us the financial report, please?
All right, well, we'll start with slide number 1. And unfortunately, I don't have that information on my screen here, so I'll have to look somewhere else. I don't know where. I'll read it from here. Okay.
Here you have it.
We got it.
Okay, thank you. On this page, it shows that our assessment revenue was $30,311,000. Non-assessment revenue was $1,663,000 for a total revenue of $31,974,000. Total expenses were $32,997,000, and that produced a net expense of $1,023,000. Next slide, please. Again, the actual assessment revenue was $21,035,000. Non-assessment revenue was $1,048,000, and total revenue was $22,083,000. Total expenses were $21,852,000 with an operating surplus of $231,000. Now, bear in mind that the numbers I'm reading to you are from the combined income and expense statement that reflects total revenues for both operating and reserve expenditures and activities. So when I get to a later screen, you will see the breakout of these numbers by operating and by reserves. Next screen, please. Now, this shows you the comparison between actual and budget. And even though we had a net revenue, net expense of $1,023,000, we actually had better results for the 9 months because
The budgeted expense for, net expense was $1,793,000. So that was an improvement of $770,000 for this 9 months. Next screen, please. This shows you the major items that produce the favorable results. And employee compensation and related costs were lower than budget by $626,000. Non-assessment revenue was up by $377,000, and that was primarily from investment income and interest income that hadn't been budgeted. Materials and supplies were higher than budget by $172,000, and outside services were higher than budgeted by $123,000. And these are the major items that produced the favorable results of $770,000 in a lower loss for the period than what was budgeted. Next screen, please. This is a pie chart that shows you the breakout of total non-assessment revenue of $1,662,000. And the biggest item there is fees and charges. This will be like room rentals, charges for services, where the member is responsible for it. The next bigger item is interest income, and then also the unrealized gain on investments at 17%. So those three items make the bulk of our non-assessment revenues. Next screen, please. Now, as far as our expenses, our largest one, of course, is employee compensation of 32%. Our next largest one is property and sales, is property taxes of 25%, and then outside services of 18%. And then the other ones make up the bulk of the remaining amounts. Next screen, please. This is a breakdown of the reserve funds that basically have stayed pretty close to the same balance. The only comment I want to add here is that in October, we found out that our insurance premiums are going to go up substantially. They were going to go up by, I believe the amount here is, it was going to be an increase from $1,273,000 to $1,947,000, or an increase of $673,000. And the payment of the increased premiums were authorized by the board in a meeting on October 22nd. And the funds for that were to come out of the contingency fund. As far as replacement reserve funds, we increased the assessment for this coming year, and the projection is that the replacement reserve funds should stay pretty close to somewhere between $18 to $19 million. Of course, the contingency fund will be decreased by that expenditure for insurance. And of course, as you all know, we've had some horrendous fires here in California. And insurance companies primarily have two sources of revenue. Of course, the premiums they collect, and the other one is that as they collect those funds, even though they're paying out claims, the majority of that is invested in stocks and bonds. So what insurance companies are showing me right now is that they're probably haven't been doing as well in the market as they should have, and all of a sudden they've had these huge claims. So I anticipate that next year we may have the same thing happen again. And hopefully VMS will jump on the gun a little sooner than this last year. They got, I think, just caught by surprise with, because they had budgeted an increase of about 30%, and that fell a little short. Next screen, please. These are the fund balances that show you in color here on these charts, going from 2015 to 2019, the composition of the funds, the replacement funds and the contingency funds. And what it's telling me there is that the replacement fund was growing fairly nicely up until 2018, and 2019 is forecast to go down, but not much. However, the contingency fund has been used from time to time for, let's say, items that hadn't been planned. And of course, one of the big ones that happened was the authorization of the installation of the solar panels. That was about a $3.8 million expense that was covered out of the contingency fund. Next screen, please. This is our history on our Manor sales, starting in January 2017, going through the latest month, which is September 2019. And you can see that the market has softened, but it's not unusual for us here because the market throughout the United States has been suffering during this last year. We just have a down cycle in real estate right now. And I think it's just something that we have to bear, and hope that the market changes. Next screen, please. That's it. That concludes my report then.
Thank you. Carl?
Okay, architectural controls. There were two, since the last board meeting, there were two architectural controls meetings. One was on September 19th, and based on the resolutions I related previously, you know what happened during that meeting. On the October 17th meeting, there was another meeting where I chaired. We reviewed an alteration from a resident that does not currently have a standard associated with it, and it was approved by the board today in the consent calendar. There are alterations that do meet the standards. They have to then come to the board for approval, and in this particular case, this one did not meet a standard, so we reviewed it in the architectural committee, and then we referred it to the board, and it was approved today. We have standardized many of the alterations that have been requested by residents. As a result, the process to obtain approval from United has been made simple, easier with just a visit to the alterations office and the filling out of a couple of forms. Many of the standards that we currently have in place can be seen online on the Laguna Woods Village website. If you go to Documents for United and then click on Architectural Standards, you'll see all of the standards that we currently have on file. We are also working with the City of Laguna Woods to ease the process of obtaining city permits. We are aware that it is taking longer than what we would like, and we are trying to make it better. However, we still need to work within the city's rules. So easing this process is taking a lot more time than anticipated. Trust that the United is trying to make this better because we know it is better for everyone if we can make the process simpler and shorter in duration. I personally am trying to get permits myself, so I know what it's like. Thanks.
Juanita?
The Communication Committee is working. Our primary focus is getting articles out for the Breeze, and I encourage all of our directors to get their summaries of their committees and all into me. I am very happy to announce that Maggie Blackwell has agreed to be a member advisor on this committee, and she has worked on the Breeze for the last, almost since its inception, and is very, very versed in the deadlines, et cetera. So we are here to help you. If you give us an outline of what you want to do, we will write the articles. If you don't feel comfortable writing the articles on what your group is doing, but we need to get input from you, and we need to get it in a timely manner, which is next week.
Tony, on member hearings?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was my first time directing, being the chair of this committee. We have 3 good members with us. Staff was there, and we dealt with, I forget now, 18 or 19. And a lot of the issues that we deal with are sensitive. And it went really well. We were done in record time. We were done about 11:30. And our next meeting is going to be on December 26th at 9 o'clock in the Sycamore Room. That's the end of my.
Andre?
Yes. Governing Dock Committee met on October 28th. and we talk about these issues. But prior to that, there's a document there, September 23rd meeting. I'm not sure why it's 23rd meeting in this agenda here. It
Because we
shouldn't
didn't have any
be,
meeting before that.
it should be in the October's board meeting agenda, right?
No, there was no meeting in October.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, so let me describe a little bit what we talked about, review and discuss the co-occupancy policy. So we talk about the purpose of the need for co-occupants. They cannot have a landlord relationship, and no remuneration will be paid or collected during the duration of the co-occupancy. The motion was to remove this phrase, this sentence, and the motion was carried and moved forward to the board. So for some reason, we missed this one on our motion. Okay, we'll bring it up at next motion, next meeting. Second one, we met on October 28th. We talked about several issues. First one is to review the governing document review committee charter. As we all know, it's been sent back to the board, the committee for minor adjustment there. We'll bring it back. Hopefully, we will satisfy everybody's concern there. And we also talk about the executive committee from bylaws. Director Liberatore was concerned about the executive committee, what's the legal status of it. What we discussed was there is only one, we agreed was there is only one executive committee. That's our interpretation of the bylaw, according to the bylaw, which is the member hearing committee. That's the only one. There is no other executive committee according to the bylaw. So that was the decision interpretation that we have. And we talked about election rules that recently passed by state bill. So there are some issues there, and there are a lot of involvements. We want to make sure we got everything right. So the board will consult with our legal counsel, bring him on to the discussion during the next meeting. And we, several of our committee members also made contribution as far as what they understand the election rules, the changes in there. So we will discuss that next during our next committee meeting. And we also decided that our meeting schedule will be the third Thursday of each month at 1:30 p.m. in the Sycamore Room. In the next meeting, we're going to talk about election rules. We're going to talk about the charter. We're going to talk about lender application, and we're going to talk about sales and leasing policy and procedures. We're hoping that we can reduce some of the restrictions and make it easier for the buyers to buy our property, but in the same time, not sacrificing the integrity of our rules and regulations. Thank you very much. Our next meeting will be November 21st, 1:30 in the Sycamore Room, November 21st, Thursday. Thank you.
Manuel?
Thank you, Sue. The last United Landscape Committee meeting was held on October 10th. And at that meeting, 6 members voiced concerns about landscaping issues in their area. Now, I've been informed that one of the Landscape Committee members, Director Torn, met with each of these members at their manor and then assisted them in getting their concerns taken care of. He was able to do this for all the members except for one. Now, I haven't talked to Director Torn, but I suspect that he won't be able to continue to do this indefinitely. So I hope we can work out a program where our committee is able to help residents with their concerns or their problems and try to help them by advising them of what the right procedure is and working with the landscape department. On that score, I think Kurt Weeman, unfortunately, he's been out with surgery for the last 3 weeks. I don't know when he's coming back, whether it's this week or next week, but they've done a tremendous job on cleaning up the creek and various other areas, and he's been absent while a lot of this has been happening. So he must have done some tremendous things to organize people in order to function while he's been gone to accomplish these things. And I can't say enough about how pleased I am that he's getting these things done, because I've been very critical of landscaping. Of the 6 requests for tree removals, 4 were denied, 1 was approved, and 1 was tabled for further consideration to see whether or not be approved or denied. VMS Representative Kurt Weeman answered most of the members' questions, and he gave a presentation on the project log and also reviewed an update on herbicide usage. The next landscape committee meeting for United will be held on December 12th, 2019 at 9:30 a.m. In this boardroom. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Carl?
Thank you, Sue. United M&C Committee was held on October 28, 2019. At the meeting, we approved the consent calendar, which included the project log. We go over the project log each particular time. Project log's got a lot of the major capital work that's being done in the community, like painting and fencing and various electrical panels and various other things. Some of the other items we touched on was parking space striping and cul-de-sacs. Some people might say, well, what's that all about? One of our residents asked to add lines in the cul-de-sacs to mark the parallel parking spaces so that we limit the area where people can park and thereby permit additional parking. Sounds like a great idea. It was, if people would comply with the lines. However, they will not, and there is no way to force them to do so. It's an expense that we will review for the 2022 budget, but right now we're not going to be doing any lines because nobody complies with the lines. We also discussed the building and the cul-de-sac sign installation program. It has been started and will continue in 2020. The buildings will receive large signs as a part of the painting program, and the cul-de-sacs will start receiving signs starting in 2020. These signs will basically look like the ones installed in Third Mutual, and the rollout for United will start in Gate 5 area. Not all signage will be installed in 1 year. Let me repeat, not all signage will be installed in 1 year. It will be phased in based on budgets and manpower over multiple years. We also voted on a new charter for the United M&C Committee, and we approved it again today. At the meeting, we also addressed the request for change to the elevation of the sections of fence behind Aldi's that are currently at 6 feet. They have the Shepherd's Crook at 6 feet, while other sections are at 7 feet. The committee felt that the cost associated with changing the height by 1 foot was not warranted because 1 foot will not make a difference in the deterrence aspect of the fencing. The fencing that is around our perimeter is a deterrent and not meant to prevent anyone that wants to hop the fence to hop the fence. A deterrent is something that discourages or is intended to discourage someone from doing something. It is not a prevention tool. The 6-foot fence is still a deterrent. As a part of our discussion about fencing, we broached the topic of fencing that is currently being installed on El Toro Road, and the fact that the contractor has had to cut back many of the bushes that have blocked visual street traffic from the residents living in that area. We understand that street traffic noise is an annoyance. If anyone understands, this is me, since I live along Laguna Hills Drive, and my area is very noisy as well. However, we have to understand that bushes do not reduce noise. However, it is the impression of noise reduction that is important to your mind's eye. Subsequent to the meeting, we walked down the area and determined that the bushes that needed to be pruned along El Toro Road had already been pruned, and the fencing that is supposed to go along that wall is already fabricated and cannot be installed in another location. Therefore, it was determined that the fencing along El Toro Road will be replaced with the Shepherd's Crook fencing. It is also our feeling that Shepherd's Crook fencing, besides being more aesthetically pleasing, also presents more of a deterrence than 3 lines of barbed wire. However, for next year, we will reevaluate where is the best place to install the new fencing that is hidden from view and roadways. Our install thinking originally was to just continue along the fence line from where we ended our install the last year, because we're going to be installing 1,475 feet a year. However, in view of the pushback we receive from same residents, we will need to take a look at just prioritizing the install in areas that are hidden and where the barbed wire is in a major state of disrepair. We also discussed walkway lighting. According to the protocols and procedures in United, the walkway lighting is not intended to eliminate the entire walkway. Its function is to indicate a change in direction or elevation within a walkway. Based on this, it is not our plan to illuminate every walkway with lights. If a nighttime walk is necessary to get to your vehicle, then there should be sufficient illumination to get to that location. If you want to take a walk at night in areas that are not currently illuminated, then a flashlight will probably be necessary. However, if there is a situation where you feel that a light is needed based on the basis that I just mentioned, then please obtain the form and make your request or contact Resident Services. Now, the next United MNC meeting is scheduled for December 25th at 9 a.m. in the boardroom. However, since that day is an obvious holiday, the meeting will probably be canceled unless we find an alternate date. If there are specific items needed to be addressed and cannot wait till February, we will probably find an alternate date in December. Whatever the date is that we decide on, we invite all residents to the meeting. Please come and get involved. And that's my report.
Cash?
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I would like to say it's a handyman task force, not a committee, as it says in the brochure today. Second thing, I would say I have a very good news. We found a company who has more than 150 people to work, to do the handyman work. But it's too good to be true, so I am still working. I have like the 5th iteration with him, and we are on almost daily basis, we talk. What I want to do is make safety of our people is number one, and next is the pocketbook. So I think I'm winning on both the issues right now. We have to give and take, and since the company is so new, I would still like to make a little pilot run of first maybe 20 or 30 people when we are ready to deploy it. I'm thinking the first time we can deploy it fully would be February, but in January I can run a small pilot to make sure that this company is what we want and will come through every time without any problems. So I have a very good news, but it's still in infancy, so do not get excited yet, but everybody's going to love what we got, okay? And the next meeting is this Friday upstairs in Sycamore Room. Everybody's welcome because we all want our safety, our things together, and so please do come. I have the guy coming in to give the final version.
Point of
probably
order,
the
is that
7th.
personal agenda or is that
No,
meeting
this
coming
is
to
the
It's a
handyman
committee
task
report,
force.
Andre, please.
The next meeting is this Friday in Sycamore Room at 2 o'clock. Please be there. Thank you.
Okay. Netta?
For the United Resident Advisory?
Resident Advisory, yes.
Actually, it's not the report, it's just introducing. And the United Resident Advisory Committee is honored to serve the members concerned. Please bring issues, problems, or suggestions to the staff and committee. If you guys are new members looking for advice about the department or the person can handle the situation, please come to this committee. The committee and the staff then take appropriate action or directly help residents. United Resident Advisory is here to listen to your problem and find the best solution for it. There is no speaking time limit. Residents are allowed to fully express their issue. The committee met with 5 residents on September 12th to discuss their problems and concerns. Our next meeting will be on November 14th at 4 o'clock in Sycamore Room. I just wanted to mention we have lots of professional and educated members in the community that can help us to solve the problems, and with their wisdom, we are able to get the things done. Please share your concern and solution with us. I'm looking forward to see you guys all on November 14 at 4 o'clock, Sycamore Row. Thank you.
Okay, Manuel, the GRF committee.
Thank you, Sue. I just want to make the remark that the last two reports that I gave you, I did not attend those meetings, but I was able to get all the information from different sources and verify that. Now, regarding the GRF Finance Committee, I have a script here. Excuse me. I did verify the financial information regarding the financial statements. However, there's other information in here that has to do with board action. It does have financial impact. So some of those I checked, some I didn't. So it's just coming from the script. Another meeting I did not attend. This Finance Committee meeting was held October 23rd, and the preliminary financial statements for the 9 months ended show that GRF is currently ahead of budget on income, due primarily to better than expected results from interest income and unrealized gains on investments, similar to United. Expenses, however, their expenses were better than expected for the period, due mainly to savings in material supplies, repairs and maintenance, and other operating expenses. Overall, for the 9 months, the excess of income over expenses for 2019 year-to-date was $2,368,000 versus the budget amount of $1,923,000. And that resulted in a favorable variance of $445,000. Now, here is where we get into items that obviously were considered at the Finance Committee meeting, but also went on and got approval from the board. The first item I've got here is that the board agreed to a proposed $10 increase to the GRF additional occupant fee assessed on units having more than 2 occupants. So if you have 3 occupants, then the fee has been increased from $90 to $100 per month. It is now subject to the 28-day waiting period. Also, the GRF charitable services late charge, that was also probably recommended at the Finance Committee meeting, but in here it was changed from $10 per month to $35 per month. And there was a suggestion that the residence boards put this item on their respective agendas. I don't know what happened beyond that. The increase currently is subject to the 28-day waiting period. Various GRF fees, room rentals, equestrian center, garden center fees, et cetera, have been under review for some time, and share costs have also been examined. Nothing has been produced from that so far. But they did say certain updated fees were approved for 2020. On October 1st, the board awarded a contract for investment management services to Sageview Advisory Groups, and all the mutuals have done that now. The change proposed is supposed to result in an increase in our income from those investments. And it could result in annual savings of approximately $25,000, assuming an average of $19 million invested. This was also news to me when I read the script. It said a purchasing ad hoc committee was formed to have a membership of 3 from GRF, 2 from Third and United, and 1 from the Towers. The 2 from United were announced by Director Margolis to be directors Armandaris and Rendazzo. And yes, I would be willing to serve on that. I think Carl would too. But that's what's on the script here. And the next meeting of the Finance Committee will be Wednesday, December the 18th, 2019 at 1:30 p.m. Thank
you. The Community Activities Committee at GRF met in September, and our next meeting is this Thursday, November 14th. If you are interested in the various activities that are overseen, the amenities by GRF, that's when you need the committee that you need to come to. It talks about the clubs, There's going to be a report from the Emeritus Program. It goes into a lot of detail on the actual fees and the room rentals and all of these kinds of things that have been controversial. This is the committee where those things are talked about and then taken to GRF. So this Thursday, November 14th, here in the boardroom at 1:30, if you're interested in any of the community activities.
Landscape Committee.
This meeting was held on, let me find it here. August 14th. Again, I didn't attend this meeting, but I have the minutes from that meeting. What a lot of people may not realize is that the GRF Landscape Committee was actually disbanded and made a part of the MNC Committee. And during this last year, I think that VMS has received so many comments regarding the creek that the committee was reformed. And we only meet quarterly because our principal issues that we deal with are primarily the creek and also landscaping where they're replacing some of the wire with shepherd's crooks because they've had to trim some of the landscaping there, and that's being looked at to replace that landscaping. The majority of the comments by members all had to do with the creek. And one of the first things I want to discuss here is the item was brought up to review the survey of Aliso Creek. And of course, the recommendation was to survey the creek, and that cost is being split between GRF and United. They've each authorized $1,500 to be spent for that. And that also been approved by each of the entities' boards. The other thing that came up was that there was a discussion and review of a request to accept a bench to be donated and some plants from the Baha'i Club. And that was also approved, subject to the type of bench that will be obtained. The bench that had been used before is no longer available, so a new form of bench has to be approved, but we've accepted that donation subject to that determination. Kurt Weeman also gave an update on the creek. He made a presentation regarding the land survey to be done, and he mentioned the fact that there was a cleanup that was taking place, and it really is improved. Again, I have to commend Kurt. He is really taking this job seriously. A couple other highlights here were the other thing that Kurt has looked into, he's looked into obtaining credits from the San Diego Water Agency, and it's not cheap, and he's looking into that further. Like his first pass, he came up with a figure of about $1.2 million, but if an expenditure like that was ever authorized, he could go in and completely remove the cattails. Right now, we can only cut them down to 1 inch above water level and really clean up the creek. But you're talking about a major expenditure. So he's looking hard to see if he can come up with a better budgeted amount for that. Regardless of what he comes up with, there's no doubt it's going to be a substantial cost. So it'll be a matter of a decision made really kind of by the community, United, GRF, and so on, as to whether or not we can afford to do that cleanup. Okay, Kurt also covered the landscaping of renovated gates right here. He said, Mr. Weeman said he is planning on doing a survey of the gates and to report on costs to upgrade the landscaping on the gates. And again, that's where there's either open spaces or they replace some of that with shepherd's crooks. Comment quoting me is that the committee is really trying hard to satisfy everyone in the village, and Kurt is doing everything possible. I have no doubt in my mind. That concludes my report.
So the GRF MNC committee meeting met on October 9th, and they have a project log for their stuff, as well as United having a project log for their stuff. And we reviewed that as part of our meeting. It's normally done at every meeting. We also addressed the following topics. Gate 11 Security Improvement Project. A motion was made and unanimously approved to recommend the GRF Board authorize Gate 11 to be added to the current scope of work for Gatehouse renovation project, and that a supplemental appropriation be approved in the amount of $110,000 from the Facilities Fund for Gate 11 renovation and $80,000 from the Equipment Fund for Gate A for a total of $190,000. I believe that this was approved at the GRF meeting that happened the other day. This money is in their budget, by the way, and this Gate 11 is part of their purview. Set pricing for level 3 EV charging stations at the community center. That's the next thing we discussed. A motion was made to recommend the board accept the pricing of the new charge point level 3 electric vehicle chargers at 25 cents per kilowatt hour for residents and 40 cents per kilowatt hour for the public. Those are the ones that are right back here, while keeping the pricing at no charge for GRF's fleet vehicles. Additionally, parking at level 3 stations will be set at $2 per hour after the first 60 minutes for both residents and the general public. Some people like to park there all day, and you can't park at a place where you got to charge electric cars, so you get charged for that if you leave your car there after you charge. We also addressed the potential need for adapters for Tesla vehicles, since the new chargers cannot be used for Tesla vehicles without the adapter. To that end, staff was directed to bring information to a future meeting regarding the costs and feasibility of purchasing an adapter that will allow Tesla vehicles to use the level 3 charging stations that we have back here. The other thing we discussed is a service agreement for commissioning of community center by Melrock, this community center building. Melrock Energy is a company that provides energy and HVAC monitoring of various large buildings in the village. Could provide large buildings in the village, such as clubhouses and community centers. At the meeting, we discussed the cost of having monitoring be established in the community center based on a field trip that was made by various personnel to Pomona College, where Melrock is currently providing the service. It was determined that this service would have a payback in energy savings. The monthly cost for this service would be applied in the community center is nominal and can be canceled at any time, since it is a month-to-month service. A motion was made to recommend that the board enter into a month-to-month service agreement not to exceed $6,300, which includes 1 year of monitoring service and a one-time fee for the setup and configuration of the system. The service agreement will begin after the commissioning of the new EMS and HVAC equipment has been completed in this building, because we put new HVAC in this building and we're still in the process of commissioning it. And after that's done, we would then go to this. Due to the proprietary equipment provided by the vendor, staff is authorized to sole source this contract to Melrock Energy. Funding for this work would be provided from the existing appropriation for miscellaneous projects in the 2019 capital plan, which is the GRF capital plan, to be paid for from the Facilities Fund. And the date of the next GRF MNC meeting is December 11th in the boardroom. And again, all residents are invited. Please come and get involved.
Okay, we're going to move on as fast as we can to F. Would you go ahead with the media and communication, please?
Media and Communication Committee met October 21st, and our next meeting is this coming Monday, November 18th at 1:30 here in the boardroom. And we got some really important information at this meeting, and there's twofold. You've got a lot about broadband and our technology that we get from Chuck Holland. And some of the really great news is our cost of our broadband is going to be going down in January 2020, primarily because we did not renew those two very expensive extra sports channels. And therefore, the monthly charge that every resident pays out of their assessment dues will be being reduced. And we also get good information from our communications director, and some of the things that were outstanding, at least to me, were some of the changes for the docent tours. The docent tours are now being used primarily to sell Laguna Woods Village. They are for new people. They are not for the existing residents. Existing residents can make a reservation if there is an extra seat, but primarily it's those who are looking at Laguna Woods Village, rather than who already live here. The reservations are required. And then also, we have new member orientation, which will be held tomorrow night. It's the evening one. We go from month to month, daytime, evening. This is the evening one, and it also has reservations required. And again, this committee will meet November 18th, which is next Monday, at 1:30, and there's lots of good information that comes out of this committee.
Brian, on mobility?
Yes, I'm going to review prepared statements from Elsie. And the regular October meeting was held October 2nd, 2019. Chris Lagner, Staff Officer for Transportation, reviewed bus ridership details for the first half of the year. Fixed bus routes averaged 7,767 completed trips per month, servicing an average of 484 passengers. Plan a Ride for the same period produced an average of 2,088 completed trips for 315 passengers. The first half of the year, the Transportation Department fielded 5,000 calls per month from residents. The Transportation has received 2 new buses, both designed for 18 passengers. One of them is already in service and the other nearly ready. There are 2 more buses on order and due to arrive in approximately 4 months. Laguna Woods Village owns 16 buses of various sizes. 14 of those were largely paid for, approximately 88% with government grants. A special meeting of the M&V Committee was held on October 29th, 2019. The meeting was primarily to roll out the recommendations of Fair and Piers Transport Consulting Firm. The recommendations to be presented to the GFR Board are briefly as follows. For fixed bus routes, 6 neighborhood buses will circulate throughout the village, beginning and ending at Clubhouse 1 every 30 minutes. A separate dedicated wellness route bus will circulate between Clubhouse 1 and medical facilities along Paseo de Valencia and Calle de Luisa every 30 minutes. 2 buses will run in opposite directions in a figure-8 route, taking passengers to commercial destinations to the west, Motown Plaza, Stater Brothers, Aldi's, etc., and east towards Mother's Market, Trader Joe's, etc. After the completion of the east and west parts of the circuit, the buses will return to Clubhouse 1 every 30 minutes before leaving for the opposite part. Clubhouse 1 will serve as a hub for all transfers. All routes will operate Monday through Saturday, 9 to 5, except for the following. Pickups will not be made from 12:30 to 1 p.m., so drivers can take their lunch break. The above schedule will double the frequency of passenger pickups and extend the service to 6 days compared with the current schedules. These changes were proposed due to input from the community and from drivers. Plan a Ride in its current configuration will basically go away, along with the problematic software that has caused so many complaints. There's a Journey program. Disabled passengers that qualify will have 2 dedicated buses with wheelchair and or two passenger capability will operate 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. There's another program called Boost Program. Outside of normal fixed route bus service, the Boost Program will be supplied by a contractor, probably Lyft, with whom the Transportation Department has had preliminary talks pending final GRF approval for the proposal. The service will be available from 8 to 9 a.m. and 5 to 10 p.m. Monday through Saturday and 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Sunday. There will be no charge to residents as long as the rides are within current fixed route boundaries. The proposed plan is far superior to the current one and is expected, if approved, to go into effect January 2020. As a proposed, the plan will come into considerable under budget for 2020 with the savings in scheduling and manning lunch hours and elimination of plan-a-ride offsetting increases in the fixed route and the cost of the new programs, parentheses, Journey and Boost. The next meeting will be held on Wednesday, December 4th, 2019.
Thank you.
Netta, could you give me the security?
Sure. I try to be highlighting it. It's the gate access update. On August 26, 2019, a staff report was submitted to committee regarding gate 11. Then went to the MNC committee where they approved it. And as a call said, because we are waiting for the approval from the GRF board, it seems that they already approved it. And gate 11 will be the last gate to get arms and conclude the gate access project. And the other one is about the Disaster Preparedness Task Force report. Thursday, October 17, 2019, captains went around building and neighborhood to check on their neighbors, filling out the injury and building damage forms. When they have done, drop them off at Care and Reception Center, CRC, and then CRC coordinator and ham radio operator passed any emergency info to the Emergency Operations Center. We're having tabletop exercise with the scenario with EJs.
Traffic?
Yeah, I told.
Traffic, would you give the traffic too? The traffic, do you have the traffic report?
Oh, you mean that this one?
Yeah.
What do you want this?
Oh, you've got it.
I've got it.
Okay, go ahead, Juanita.
Again, Director Addington was very, very good about preparing all of these reports in advance for us. The Traffic Committee report, the Traffic Committee met on October 16th, 2019. The committee's purpose is to make sure our community is protected from excessive speeding and other traffic violations, such as improper parking, unauthorized commercial vehicle parking, and/or operation, which can jeopardize the safety of our residents. Lately, ignoring stop signs is a particular problem. Violators are ticketed by our security personnel, and on most occasions, a fine is levied to encourage violators to follow our village safety rules. The responsible parties for some ticketed vehicles are offered a choice of paying the fine after notification by security or attending traffic school. The violations qualifying for traffic school under new rules now in effect are most speeding violations, failure to stop at a stop sign, failure to yield right of way, no turn signal, driving left of the center of the road, out of your lane. All other violators, if found guilty, may not attend traffic school and have to pay the fine. Participants are normally limited to first-time offenders. The committee is comprised of 4 directors, one from each United, 3rd, 50, and GRF, and cited people are scheduled in from 9 a.m. to noon and from 1 to 3. At the hearing, each case is discussed and fines levied as appropriate. The committee provides leniency wherever possible. Guilt or innocence, as well as applicable fines, are determined by a majority vote after further discussion from the committee after the public part of the hearing. Hearing results are in village only, and the results are not given to the DMV or to insurance companies. After the last meeting, 18 people were scheduled for hearing. 3 didn't show up, resulting in automatic determination of the fines proposed by security. Of the 15 who appeared, 10 were found guilty of their offenses and will receive the fine. 1 had the offense and the fine waived, and 4 were found responsible for the offense but received no fine. 3 people appealed to the committee by letter. Of those, all were determined to be responsible for the offense and fined. The next traffic hearing committee will be November 20th, 2019, and this may change due to upcoming special meetings of the various mutual boards.
Okay, we're going to go into director's comments. Brian, do you have any comments?
I have just I have just one comment. I do want to commend Dorothy on the KPIs. That's very commendable. Thank you.
Reza? Cash?
I do have a few comments. Thank you. First of all, I would request all the directors to vote with conscience rather than voting as a pack. That was obvious today. And also, let it be known that illegal motions were made and passed in today's meeting. And also, finance report was given by somebody not even on the committee, when you could have asked either Carl Rendazzo or yourself or Anthony Liberatore or Brian Gilmore, but that was not done. Again, the architecture committee should have been Brian as the chair of the committee to give that speech, the report. And finally, I would recommend a clock be put on everyone who speaks at every stage. That includes me and everybody else. I'm saying that because somebody raised an objection when I went to 3.5 minutes, when other people have gone over 5. That's all. Thank you. I appreciate all you guys to come here and spend your morning with us. Thank you.
Manuel?
Well, it's a pleasure to be here again. And I have to thank Sue Margolis and those directors that were, let's say, brave enough to propose lifting my censure, because I believe I have a lot to offer the community and this board, and perhaps push VMS. Excuse me, I'm not getting all choked up, it's just something caught it. You know, as far as cash is concerned, I really don't understand what his problem is, because that's...
Out of order. Out of order.
Out of order.
Okay, anyway, I don't understand what his problem is. Thank you.
Andre?
A few issues here. First, I really like commend VMS taking on KPI issue. Past 4 years, we've been talking about the measurements, and the response was always, it costs money, it costs money, it costs money. And finally, we realized that without the KPI, it costs us more money. So I hope that anybody that has a negative concept about measurements and the KPI will give it a chance and see how well it works. It works in every industry, it works in every company, except we don't have it here. So it's a big improvement that we want to make it happen here. Okay. Second thing is, before we talk about any extreme cases that are ridiculous cases, please talk to us. Please, our doors are open. Please help us out, and we will answer those questions to you. And there are a few things you probably don't understand what's going on there. Please don't spread rumor and come up with all those reasons. Talk to us, and we'll let you know. And there are issues that we really can solve. Okay, we have experience solving these issues. KPI is a good example. Quality control is another good example. And all those issues, so we can solve them easily. We are implementing process. The board has changed for only 1 month. So give us a chance, and we will prove that we can do it. And also, BMS has been talking about give us a few years, give us a few years. So it's been, this is the 5th year they finally get on the right track at this point. So give us a few years. I mean, I'm kidding. We'll make a difference in 1 year, okay?
5 years?
Yeah, BMS has been established for 5 years, and people still talking about give them more time, give them more time, okay? So issues, also I want to apologize to Cash. I wasn't clear about what he was talking about, and I jumped the gun. Sorry about that. Thank you very much.
Carl?
I think I've said enough.
Thank you. I have a couple of things. First of all, I would like to congratulate VMS and all of our employees on the wonderful Halloween celebration that they had. It was outstanding. Those of you who were not able to be in this building at that time, every department was decorated. There were costumes and contests, and it was all paid for by the employees. They did the potluck. They did their own costumes. Nothing was paid for by the company. But it was a great morale builder, and it was just absolutely fantastic. And I hope they're going to have some video on TV6 that will let the rest of the community see what some of those great things were. Secondly, to kind of piggyback on what Jeff Parker talked about, tonight's Laguna Hills City Hall City Council meeting at 7 o'clock is going to have a presentation on the concept for the new mall. They're calling it the Village at Laguna Hills. 5 Lagunas is out the door, and it's been reduced, and this is not a final concept or anything, but at least there's going to be some information at their city council meeting. And last but not least, almost all of us, when we talk about things that we want in this village, we use the word transparency. Communication and transparency. But we need to be careful what we're really talking about. Transparency in many instances leads to rumors. If you have 3 people who attend a meeting, a committee, a task force, you're going to get 3 different opinions, and they're going to go out and say, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. I saw it in a meeting. And I think this is most apparent right now because of the task force that they had on alternative revenue sources, where they just brainstormed any and everything we might be able to do. But a few people heard about, oh, we're going to do this. We're absolutely going to do this. We're going to do away from this. We're going to sell this. And the rumors get started. So we have to be careful with transparency, that our transparency is only for facts. Thank you.
Tony? Tony?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have one observation. They just did some concrete around my place, and they don't do it the way we used to do it. We used to put, for a sidewalk, 4 inches of concrete, a driveway 6 inches. We put it on half-inch aggregate because concrete is a fine, and when it pushes water out, it doesn't take water in. And so if you lay it right on dirt, it doesn't cure properly. So I like to get up to speed on that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Netta?
Thank you, Adam.
Okay, I have no concluding remarks, and this concludes, we're going to reconvene for our closed session. And thank you, everybody, for staying through. We appreciate your input, and we will adjourn for
Recess.
Recess. It says adjourn in the bottom.